Hey everybody, welcome back to Northernlion Plays The Binding of Isaac Afterbirth Plus. Here we are, 15 wins. Sorry, what I meant to say is, here I am, doing everything I can. Oh no, I don't know why I turned into Hamilton. Oh no, what I can't pretend I'm a Superman. Why DRE 1G6A? With, I mean, let's just calls it like we sees it. Pretty solid start. Fire rate. Why is it that fire rate sounds so cursed? Rate of fire sounds normal. Rate of fire is good. Great even. Single digits I think is the qualification for great. Damage, not good. However, the ability to fly, although only via our active item, combined with I walked into the fire and then got hit by the champion. That's a brand new low, like a treble charger song. And then the incredible speed at our disposal is very solid. Dude, Toxic Shock is really good. How am I doing? I'm doing well, honestly. Thank you for asking. So today is a Wednesday. Yesterday did Unity. Well, Unity went a little bit long because we played a little Warzone Trios afterwards. And I was originally I was kind of like burned out, but I still wanted to get some work done. Which is, and again, I want to, before I even get into this, I want to recognize it's a luxury to even, like, have the opportunity to do what I did yesterday. So it's very much, I'm not, like, you know, trying to be like, life's hard. But, you know, I was feeling a little bit run down, at least, from a lot of recording and, you know, I mean, just playing so much Doki Doki Literature Club, which requires non-stop reading, which for some reason, reading is harder on your voice. I guess you put a little bit more sauce on it. Than just talking. Because I can speak monotone for quite a long time without damaging my vocal cords. But then I took like a little bit of time off, you know, like a half an hour to eat some lunch. And I was like, then I'll get some more work done. Then I was like, you know what? This Columbus-Tampa Bay hockey game is going to like a historic level of overtime that I haven't seen for like a decade and a half. Went to quadruple overtime, so I was like, you know what, I'll watch quadruple overtime. And then it went on, and then I'll record after that. And then it went to quintuple overtime. And I was like, you know what, I'm feeling a little bit gassed today. Maybe I'll just take the rest of the afternoon and evening off, and I'll, you know, come back tomorrow. I gotta tell you, low-key, one of the greatest decisions I made in 2020. I watched a bunch of Jeopardy, went grocery shopping, bought some snacks and some sparkling water, and ate some, and I'm not recognizing this as genuine self-care, to be fair. I ate a bunch of potato chips while watching Jeopardy and The Office, and honestly, then I went to bed like 45 minutes earlier than usual and woke up at my normal time, and I feel like a superhero, to be honest with you. I feel like I've ascended. I made the joke on Twitter. I feel like Luke Skywalker coming out of the Bacta tank in The Empire Strikes Back. Now, the first one I made the joke, I didn't know what the Bacta tank was. I called it a goo tube. But yeah, that was it was a good decision. I feel rejuvenated today. I feel better, honestly. And that's, you know, sometimes I think I get, I wouldn't call it gaslighting. It's a pretty heady word to use, or a pretty heavy word to use, I guess, for this. But sometimes I think people look at me and they think that my advice is always, you know, work. But I'm not really that kind of guy. You know, I like to do what is presently my job a lot. And I get very annoyed when people who don't really know me that well are like, you should work less. Because I'm like, you don't know me? And I don't mean that in the honey boo boo sort of way. But I'm like, you know, you don't know what makes me happy and what makes me comfortable. So for you to be so presumptuous to think I should work less just in general is something that's a little frustrating for me. But when my brain is like, you should take tonight off. That's something that doesn't come up in the cerebral cortex that much. And sometimes I listen to it and sometimes I don't. So when I listened to it last night, I think I made a good decision. I feel like at least 40% better today, if you can quantify that. Just stay away from me. Anyway, so I'm feeling good. What kind of potato chips did I eat? So I'll be honest. I went into the grocery store. I'm like a one-snack Marty, if that makes sense. Given universal freedom, I would buy every snack at the grocery store every time. It's not good for you, obviously. So I'm like, I go and I'm like, I'll allow myself the existence of one snack. Lay's Poppables were on sale. We got some Lay's Poppables. I've only had them once before. I don't know why the way I phrase it makes it sound like it's a French delicacy. Would you like some Lay's Poppables, sir? And I gotta say, I was pleased. It was like eating a basket of flavor. Moving on, though. Hold on. There is the slightest desire to focus here. At least we got our bomb back. Just because we could screw up... I mean, this is a butterfly effect floor, you know? We could very easily take damage, which causes us to not get a deal with the devil, which has an incredible impact on the rest of our run, for positive or for negative. And admittedly, it could be for positive. However, the odds are... You can't control what you're going to get from your deals with the devil. Love you. She said it back. You can't control what you're going to get from your deals with the devil. So how do you control what you get from your deals with the devil? You get as many as possible. Missing one on the second floor doesn't mean we're guaranteed to get less. But if you looked at a large enough sample size, that is the correlation you would see. Because, you know, we could... If we miss this one but get the next one could have goat head. You get the idea. So obviously there's exceptions to the rule, but I don't trade in the exceptions to the rule right now. I trade in the rule because this is a game that we're capable of manifesting the law of large numbers in just by virtue of the mass effect of what we're playing. So regardless of the overly heady verbiage for that, we'll be moving on. And you know my new principle, dude, and it's been working out real nicely. I see no need to take a... Depending on your HP, but for the most part, I see no need to take a useless guppy item as your first deal with the devil item just to get precedent. I would almost say that it's... I bet if you charted it for a good player, let's say a player at my level, and you did like a sample size of 10,000 runs where they took Guppy's hairball. I just want to see how much HP we got elsewhere. I think we can do this for a bit. 10,000 runs where they took Guppy's hairball there, and 10,000 runs where they didn't. I bet you would see a higher win rate in the one where they didn't take Guppy's hairball. Okay, I really appreciate that, honestly, because we were getting a little tight. Hold on. This is still real good, because remember, we got Monkey's Paw. Contract from Below is super nice. Let's just see what we got in here. I will absolutely try this on for size. I regret it immediately. You gotta be careful, because any of these enemies could, in theory, kill us in one hit and ruin the ability for Monkey's Paw to save our life. Was it worth it? Oh my lord, no. But that's okay. Maybe if we got PhD somehow. Just leave. We should have waited, but I got a little frightened. I got a little perturbed. At first, I was afraid. I was petrified. Okay. I mean, we're 8 minutes deep here. I think we're good to go. I think we are good to go. Let me hydrate, and we're good to go. Yeah, it was nice, honestly. I struggle a little bit with feeling guilty when I don't work a lot. And I think it's a very minor struggle. And I acknowledge that, you know, anything anybody's going through can seem minor. But it could seem major to them in the moment, right? But, like, genuinely, you gotta recognize that on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I don't even know. That's like, it might be above self-actualization. It's on the level of, like, you know, my Mercedes needs an oil change. Still under warranty, but I gotta take it into the friggin' dealership. Yeah, I own the dealership, but it's still inconvenient. But yeah, I think I'm learning. I'm kind of forcing myself to let go of the of that attachment, And it's honestly not as hard as I thought it would be to get used to working a little bit less. And it's not even like... I think it leads to no change in the quality of the content. It does change the quantity. Now, I think it's like a coping mechanism to say like, oh, well, 4 videos a day that are good is better than 5 videos a day that are just put... Because that's not really like the way that I approach it in the first place. I think it's kind of like setting up a false dilemma. But I think it might force some of the people that watched Monster Train to have to watch a series that is not Monster Train. But, you know, once they get on the ride, I think they're happy with it. But, you know, really in general, it's just like, you know, we're getting really down into like, you know, on a literal level, the baby could be here any day. On a probabilistic level, you know, with the real, like, you know, alarm clock starts beeping about like 5 or 6 weeks from now. And then that last month of pregnancy, you know, it could be any second, right? So, gotta, you know, sooner rather than later get myself in the mindset of like, and the audience for that matter, get them in the mindset of like, you know, not every series is gonna have a video every day for a bit. I don't really know what the and I think I wish I had a better answer for this. I don't really know what the plan for content is gonna be around the like late September, October, November sort of window. You know, realistically is going to be a lot lower. So I'm not going to be like, oh, we'll still do like I know there are some streamers, and this is not to call into question at all, like, their priorities, right? But there are streamers who have done, like, you know, a stream a day for years, for like 6 years, even like while their child was being born. Now, they're not playing Escape from Tarkov while their wife's in the hospital. You know, they're doing like an IRL stream where they're like, hey, there's not going to be a long stream today. I'm at the hospital because my son or daughter's being born. But I think like the way that I'm going to approach it is a little different. You know, realistic. Here's like, it's a weird. I'm still trying to get into it. It's not a prickly subject at all. I'm just trying to think about the way that I want to phrase it. The mother has it really tough around the time of the birth. Now, the father has it really tough as well relative to their, you know, pre-baby life. You know, they're getting woken up all the time. They got way more responsibilities, you know, yada, yada, yada. But, like, is still, and this is a generalization, but it's, you know, let me put it this way. I don't have to disrobe every 2 hours to, you know, feed a child from my chest, okay? Like, it is what it is. I would if I could, but the nurses told me, sir, if you do that again, we're gonna have to kick you out. And I said, but I'm just trying to help. So, you know, my number one, I mean, I got a lot of number one priorities. My number one priority is, you know, my daughter. My number one priority, 1A, is my wife. And not just, like, her own happiness, but also, like, pulling my own weight. Or preferably even a little bit more than my own weight, so that she sees that, like, I'm in it. For the, like I'm being a good person. I'm not like, you know, fine, I'll change your diaper, but then I gotta go record more Isaac. And then, like, my number 1B priority, I might even say it's number 2, and don't take this the wrong way, is the audience, you know? The thing is, if you do a half A-word job of, you know, being a husband or, you know, raising your kid, I think that's real bad and very hard to come back from, you know? If you're forced to take, you know, a couple of months where you kind of can't give 100% to your job, you can make it back from that, as long as it's for a good reason. Yeah, we can re-roll here. So I guess that's kind of where I'm at right now. I also, like, I had to remember, you know, a lot of it is, like, remembering that 2020 is, like, a super weird year. So when I was feeling a little burned out yesterday, I really don't feel burnout very often. But when I was feeling a little burned out yesterday, I was like, man, I normally, like, after 5 hours of Unity, I wouldn't feel this burned out. What happened? And I was like, oh, you know, like, I haven't, and again, this is kind of heavy first world problem vibes, but I haven't taken, like, a vacation of longer than 1 day since... I mean, the last time I took more than a day off in succession... Well, that's not true. I kind of took 2 days off, I think, like, in the spring. And by 2 days off, I mean a Friday and a Saturday, and then worked on Sunday. But the last time I took, like, a week off was in May of 2019. So and that's not to say, like, I needed a long break, but that was very nice for me to... That's not the secret room, huh? Oh, because the secret room's back there. It was nice for me to remind myself, like, oh yeah, I forgive myself for feeling a little burnout. You know, haven't really spent more than 48 hours not doing YouTube stuff or in Twitch stuff in quick succession for like a year and a half. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. And again, it's introspective, but it's not like melancholy. I'm real pleased with what we got going on here. I'm very thankful. I say it to Kate all the time, like whenever there's a, you know, pregnancy frustration. And I mean, she's been frustrated too a little bit. You know, like, hey, this is like our last year where we're a couple before having a family. So like, it would have been nice to do some more couple stuff, but COVID kind of like, you know, put the kibosh on most of that stuff that involves leaving the house at least. But, you know, we just try to keep it in perspective that, A, like, we got it pretty good. And then, B, like, working from home makes this all possible. So, really, this is kind of like a roundabout way of saying, like, thank you to you who's watching this right now. Not just for the support over the years, but because of what that support has enabled. You know, a situation where, you know, my wife being 7.5 months pregnant doesn't need to go, like, you know... go to the office and be uncomfortable there. She can be uncomfortable at home instead. And, like, you know, I don't have to, you know, 2 weeks after the baby's birth, head back to the office and people will be like, hey, how's the kid? And I'll be like, I don't know, just met her, see ya, sorry, I gotta go file some TPS reports, you know? So, it's, definitely recognize that, you know, it's definitely not trying to get people to feel sorry for us. It's like the opposite. It's almost like a little bit of a humble brag, but we have not lost perspective on the subject, and we're very thankful and appreciative of what YouTube and Twitch have enabled us to do that, you know, a lot of people are unable to do. So, you know, that's the positive. There's the positive. Anyway, so I'm feeling good. I'm feeling so good I don't feel the need to take this yellow and white pill and see what pops up. And on this Isaac run, we're doing real well as well. There's very little concern here. Lots of HP. So much HP that I actually said no to lard. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'll open up a little bit of introspection there. I think maybe we should have said yes to lard. Because we did take wooden spoon. Sure. And let's check this too. Wooden spoon did not speed us up, which might mean, and it's a bit of an ask, I'll admit, but I think this is worth one play, quite frankly, and the 7 cents. I think that, no, we don't want that, come on. I think that lard might not have slowed us down. I think that you might almost have just a static speed. No, thank you. I think 7 cent buddy in a box is okay. This is a good shop, though, one way or the other. Okay, we have Humbling Bundle, which you shouldn't have picked up the money before picking... Yeah, you got me there. But we got a Humbling Bundle and Contract from Below. So we got a very nice setup there. We're feeling good. Apart from that, what's going on? Not too much, you know? I mean, it's baby time, dude. Reading a lot of baby books. I don't really have any, like, insight into the baby book stuff. Kate got like a 1,200 page Korean baby book. It's honestly straight up, I think it's thicker than any textbook I've ever had in my entire life. It is insane. And she's been reading it through page by page. Lots of useful info in there, and we love that. I think we should take Gimpy. I think we got the base for it right now. We'll take Jesus Juice as well. Lots of good stuff in there, but also lots of stuff that is like, you know, I'm not going to say it's common sense, because, you know, I oftentimes have a lack of common sense, because common sense is not actually common. You know, some of it is learned, and, I mean, I used to have a a psychology teacher in high school. One of his favorite expressions is that common sense is neither common nor sensical. I don't necessarily believe that. I do believe that common sense is uncommon, sometimes. And some of the reason it's uncommon is because, you know, the depth of people's ignorance will surprise, you know, everybody. And everybody's got spots that they're ignorant of. But I also believe it's uncommon because some of it, you know... What was I going to say? Well, like, it's societal, right? Common sense in, you know... There are idioms from culture that are, like... From culture A that are the exact opposite as idioms from culture B. If that makes sense. And yet they're both, like, it's infallible. Like, the early bird gets the worm, but simultaneously, slow and steady wins the race. How can they both be true simultaneously? The answer is they are both true in some situations, I guess. But anyway. Some of it, though, is like, it'll boggle your mind. Like, let's just donate a little. One of the first things she was like, in North America, you gotta have a car seat to take your baby home from the hospital. They won't let you take it home without the car seat, right? I shouldn't say in North America, but in Canada, and I'm sure the US at least. Not to say that in Mexico they don't have the same safety standards. I'm just saying I don't know what in Trinidad and Tobago if they got the same kind of regulations. Anyway, now that we've navigated that minefield, in the book that she's reading is like, because it's from South Korea, it's like, you really should have a car seat. We do not recommend that mothers just carry the baby home, no matter how strong their grip is. And I was like, look, I mean, I'm not trying to be that guy, but do you really need a book to tell you that, like, a car seat is a valuable addition? Maybe yes, maybe no. I don't know. Sometimes, you know what I think I think there's a baby fallacy that I'm sure parents have it. Like, I'm just waiting for, like, well, back in my day, we used lead bottles when I was a kid, and look at how we turned out. But I think there is, like, a fallacy sometimes where people will go, you know, how did, like, we don't need this because people have been having babies for, like, billions of years. Well, hundreds of thousands of years, like, unless you're talking about mammals specific. Okay, but we don't need to get into it. Either way, you know, how did the cavemen manage to raise babies when, you know, they didn't have OSHA certified car seats that were rear facing and, you know, yada yada yada, bottle sterilizers and yada yada yada? Well, I mean, one of the answers is statistically the, you know, infant success rate was probably, like, pretty low. But then, like, another answer is, yeah, I'm pretty sure cavemen, you know, didn't need to have a good car seat because cavemen didn't have cars. They didn't have cars, Kevin. I don't think they needed to have a good car seat when the maximum speed that they could travel was roughly the speed of a human jog. And even then, I doubt they were trying to jog with the baby. You know, you leave the baby at home, and then, you know, the hunters hunt, and then they come back and the gatherers gather. You know what I mean? Or all the hunters and gatherers go out, and then, you know, the babies stay with the... it might not have been worth it. The babies stay with the elder statespeople of the tribe or whatever, you know? Now we need a car seat because you gotta drive your kid to the pediatrician. The pediatrician doesn't live like 2 huts down. Though that would be sick. Generally speaking, This is not a controversial statement. I was going to say, generally speaking, I am pro baby safety. I don't know if that makes me a pariah. But I don't know, sometimes I do get confused, because I'm like, people will be like, you don't need to worry that hard about raising your baby, like, you're gonna do fine, you're gonna figure it out, you don't need to, like, learn that much, babies are just human beings, you know, people are way too concerned about the optimum way to raise a child, you'll figure it out as you go, but at the same time, if you look at their Google search history, they'll be like, what's the exact perfect build for my monk in Diablo 3? You don't need to worry. They designed the game to work with multiple builds. You could, whatever, just use the equipment that feels right. You don't need to bust out the spreadsheets to have the perfect PvP build. Anyway, I'm not trying to make any enemies. I'm just illustrating a contradiction for the purposes of humor, ideally. But we both know there's nothing funny about Diablo 3, especially its launch. Hey, Fall Guys, Diablo 3 called. They want their server engineers back. Oh my god, dude. He shouldn't say it, but he said it, and we were all thinking it. Anyway, so there's been like a lot of baby stuff. That's been high on the list. There's been a lot of baby stuff. The end. Take me away. This is good. But yeah, not a bad thing. It's good, you know. I feel like the more prepared, you know, there's a difference. Here's the way I look at it. I've made this exact analogy before. There's a lot of different studying styles, and I've experimented with all of them. No studying, cramming, and you know, a good study regimen that you stick to. We'll get a lot here, because we want Book of Belial we don't care about, but we definitely want, like, the Spirit Heart from a Book of Revelations and, like, the Demon Heart from a Book of Satanic Bible, if possible. I don't know if we want anything else. Like, honestly, I think I'm happy with the White Pony right now. I appreciate the speed, quite frankly. Cramming, I think, has its place. But I also think cramming is anxiety-inducing. You know, is it the most efficient studying style? You're not gonna like hearing this, because this is not what your teachers would say. I think it depends on who you are as a human being, and like the way your brain works. I do think that cramming can be one of the most efficient studying styles, in the sense that you spend the least amount of time to get the maximum grade. What I would say is that I don't think you should min-max your time like that unless you have something very, very valuable to do with the rest of your time. What I think you should do instead is pay attention throughout the whole semester and then go with a regimented study system for the exam. Like in undergrad for biology, I was a crammer for sure. And it worked, but it didn't work for everybody. You know, I think if I have something going on for me, going in the positive direction, memory's pretty solid. So when it comes to the regurgitation of facts and principles, usually I'm maybe, let's just say, a cut above average. And then in some other aspects of academia, maybe a cut below average. But so it worked fine, but definitely if I could go back, I would do it the other way, which is the way that I did it when I was in school for programming. And honestly, it's more to do with the way that those courses are set up, where you're doing assignments constantly. You know, in order to do the assignment, you need to pay attention to the lecture in the lab. And, you know, after you pay attention to the lecture in the lab, you struggle through the assignment, you get the assignment done, you've learned a lot, and then your next assignment builds on the previous one, so you have to have done so well on the last one to do well on the next one. And then by the time the exam comes out, you're like, you know. I mean, my favorite programming exams were the ones that were all performative, like, you know, here's, because it was always, the assignments were sometimes difficult, but then the exam was always like, you know, make a clock, and I'm like, okay. That's easy enough. New clock, open parentheses, close parentheses, semicolon. But the worst was when they're like, okay, so the coding portion of the exam is worth 50%, and the other 50% is BS multiple choice questions that in an enterprise environment, I'm pretty sure you would just Google. Like, no offense. But why do I need to know that C++ was invented by Jarn Sharstrup? You know? It's not, I'm not throwing shade on the guy. Like, thanks for your service. But also, that's not going to help me code C++. It's like, I don't know, if you're in like a materials class, are they like, hey, what kind of rebar do you need to reinforce a building with these dimensions? I got it. Hey, who invented concrete? I don't know, Pliny the Elder? You idiot, it was Pliny the Younger. You got 50% in this class. You know, it's just a weird, anyway, like, we don't need to get into it. But I think, in general, you might think you're avoiding stress by procrastinating on learning things. But all you're doing is making the stress show up later. I would much rather, in a low-stakes environment, learn as much as possible for something that's going to happen, and then when it happens, I'm prepared. I think that's the best option in this situation. Now, for some things, I think you're just better with on-the-job training, you know? I think you could read 100 books on how to ride a bicycle. You're probably not going to actually feel confident until you actually, you know, get on and fall off a couple of times. And when it comes to, you know, some high-stakes stuff like a human life, probably worth the recommendation to do a little bit of prep work in advance. Just my 2 cents. Anyway, it's been nice, honestly, except for the burnout yesterday, which was obviously, as we mentioned, handled. It's been a nice August so far. Backlog is pretty low. This is only like 5 or 6 days after... it's going up 5 or 6 days after it was recorded. And you know what? This is a very gentle Win 16 here. No complaints whatsoever. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys have enjoyed the episode. If you did, click the like button. Helps out a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. See ya!